Hey,
O pessoal já vai entrando já. Pode ser?
hey, Joanne, are you online?
Hey, Joanne.
Here I am.
Okay. Marina, would you like to make any kind of introduction before?
Yes, I'm going to speak in Portuguese just a little bit.
Okay.
Oi, pessoal, tudo bem? Hoje a EU Business School está aqui com a gente e a Prof. Joanne vai falar um pouco sobre retórica, falar em público e apresentações, vai ser incrível. Eu vou passar a palavra para o Caio, que vai apresentar um pouquinho de business, e aí já vamos para a MOC, tá bom? Pode ter, com você.
Olá, pessoal, boa tarde. Muito obrigado pela presença hoje aqui nessa aula junto com a EFG, tá? Meu nome é Caio Limoli. Como vocês podem ver, eu sou brasileiro, porém eu moro em Barcelona, onde nós temos um dos campos da EU Business School, tá? A EU, só para vocês conhecerem um pouquinho mais, a EU é uma escola de negócios de origem suíça, tá? Com um mindset, um approach internacional. Então, de fato, nós temos o campus da Suíça, em Genebra, temos um campus em Barcelona, na Espanha, e temos um terceiro campus em Munique, na Alemanha. Então, de fato, nós somos, né, uma escola de negócios internacional, com presença internacional, possibilidade, inclusive, de intercâmbio entre campos, tá? E a gente tem, dentro do universo do mundo dos negócios, a gente tem algumas especializações, como comunicação e relações públicas, International Relations, Sport Management, Digital Business Design and Innovation, tá? Então, para quem tiver curiosidade depois em conhecer um pouco mais da EU Business School, conhecendo um pouco mais sobre os nossos campos, a experiência de morar, estudar e trabalhar na Europa, eu me coloco à total disposição depois para conversar com vocês, fazer essa troca de experiência, esse bate-papo, trazer a minha experiência particular para vocês, para que vocês possam se programar para, quem sabe, no futuro, né, estarem aqui na Europa, estudando e possivelmente trabalhando, para que entendam essa experiência. Eu não vou roubar muito mais tempo de vocês hoje, tá? Então, o objetivo é a gente ter uma aula interessante de Effective Public Speaking. So, I will let you all with our amazing professor from Geneva campus, Joanne Jankowski. Okay, she's an expert in effective public speaking, and she will introduce herself and lead the class today. So I hope you all enjoy this amazing class, and hope to see all of you in a close future here in Barcelona or Geneva or Munich campus. Okay, so enjoy the class.
All right, thank you very much, Gaia, for the introduction. I didn't understand most of it, but at least the last part. So now we switch fully into English.
I was just making a quickly introduction of EU Business School in Portuguese.
Perfect.
Okay.
You did a great job.
Thanks.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Thank you very much for having me. As Kyle said, my name is Joanne Jankowski. I represent EU Business School. I'm coming to you today from Geneva. It's evening time here. It's 9 o'clock. It's been a rainy day, but I think this is a really exciting way to top off the day for me in particular. So I'm really glad to be here. And yes, and as I said, the topic for today's short webinar is effective public speaking. So I think we should start without any further ado. And I would actually like to start with some dark humor using a well-known quote from a very famous comedian, Jerry Springer. And he once said that at a funeral, the average person would rather be in the casket than delivering the eulogy, you know? So of course, this is dark humor, as I said. What this means is that, you know, what he's trying to sort of say, and statistics also show this, that public speaking is really something that a lot of people fear. It's right at the top. You know, we have a lot of fears. Of course, people fear death, and people fear losing their jobs, and you know, spiders are a great fear also. But one of the top 10 is also includes public speaking. So if you are one of those people, I am here to tell you that you are not alone, because a vast majority of us are not born natural public speakers. And this is a skill that we have to acquire, we have to learn, develop, and we tend to be extremely fearful. And one of those individuals was Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but this is a very well-known American billionaire. He's an amazing businessman. He, started from practically nothing and became one of the richest men in the world. And he once said that you will be worth 50% more if you improve this one human skill. And he was referring to public speaking. He was someone who in his early 20s, and he talks a lot about this in his interviews, in his early 20s, when he was starting out, he was kind of still at school and slowly starting out with businesses. He was really scared to speak in public, and to the extent that, he would have horrible reactions. He would come out on to present out on stage, and he would even vomit, so it was really terrible for him. And he signed up for a course on public speaking, and he went in for the first time. And he, unfortunately, as he entered the door, he got so scared that he turned around and he left. And then he signed up again, and he tried, he forced himself, he pushed himself, and he got through the course, and he made it through, and he got his certification. And actually in his interviews, he mentions that it's the one certification, and he has studied at top schools, top business schools, universities. He's an amazing man. And he says that the one certificate that he has on his wall is the one from that public speaking course, because he believes that that was one of the most important skills that he had gained. He'd overcome his fear, and he managed to become extremely successful, the successful person that he is today. So, why is this important? There are many reasons, especially when we look at the context of business, so, when you think about your stakeholders, so the stakeholders being those people that your business interacts with and that have an impact on you as well as a company, as an individual. So these could be like your customers, your employees, your suppliers, the general public as well. It's very important, of course, as a business individual, to be able to communicate with all of these stakeholders. So when you think about, your customers, you have to be able to sell your products, your services. So you have to be able to communicate that very well. If you think about, if you want to become an entrepreneur and you maybe need to then pitch your business to potential investors, to venture capitalists, right? So you have to know how to stand in front of them and do an extremely good job to persuade them to really, be able to sell your business, to sell yourself. Even with employees, leaders, it's one of the most important leadership skills is communication, and amongst that also, of course, public speaking. So, even when you're talking to your employees, you have to be able to persuade them and convince them as a leader, motivate them to do better, to perform to their utmost potential, because that will bring you success. And as I said, the general public as well. So selling your products, your services. Today, when we think about things such as marketing, one of the key areas in business, telling stories and being able to really speak well about your products and your services to your potential customers is something that is extremely important. And, this is also really confirmed by studies. Statistics show, Bloomberg, they have this survey that goes out every year, and they look at what are the top skills that are needed for businessmen, businesswomen of the future. And every single year, communication skills, public speaking skills come up as one of the top and one of the most important. So, how can we be effective in public speaking is the question. And I have to say that, a lot of my students ask, well, what is the formula? What are the steps that I need to take? And how do we do it to be, to have success? And what I say to that often is one size does not fit all. So there are a couple of questions that we need to ask ourselves, because there are some tips. So there are a couple of questions that we have to, or we can ask ourselves when preparing for a public speech, when preparing a presentation. And those are as follows. So why, who, what, and how. And I'd like us to start with the first question, which is why. So we need to ask ourselves when preparing for a presentation, when preparing for a speech, why are we going to be delivering it, right? What is the purpose? What do we exactly want to achieve? And actually, when you think about public speaking, specialists say that there are three main purposes in public speaking. And the first one is to persuade, then to inform, and also to entertain. So if you think about it, one of those will always be part of your purpose. So either you want to persuade someone to, want to change their minds, or if you think about maybe politicians, right? If you look at the United States, presidential candidates, they go around and they try to persuade their voters to get the vote, to get their voice and their support, right? So they have to be very persuasive. Informative presentations also are very popular within the business setting, because again, you have to give information to all of those stakeholders that I was mentioning before. And also entertaining, sometimes these things come together. So you might be persuading, and at the same time you want to use a little bit of humor. So there's nothing wrong with doing that if if you feel that it's appropriate for the occasion. Yeah. And if you are good, some people are super funny. I'm sure there are many of those amongst you. So if you are one of those people, make sure that, when you're delivering your next presentation, or you have a speech of some sort that you're going to be involved in, that you use that skill, because not everybody's funny, right? Sometimes it could really backfire. So we have to be careful. Now, the second question that we ask ourselves in the process is who. So who are we delivering the speech for? This is super important. If you think about communication in general, we always should ask ourselves that question. So you guys know this, I'm sure, also from writing essays, when you write reports in business, when you're communicating, you're writing an email, or you're preparing certain documents. We always ask ourselves, who is this for? Now, why do we do that? Because if we understand who the audience members are, then we can prepare our communication better, right? We can tailor that communication towards them, and we can really give them what they want. And that's also, if you think about it, it's a really big part of marketing as well, because we have to, it's very important that we try to understand who our customers are, so that we could meet their needs, and that we could properly and correctly, sell our products and services to them. So coming back to public speaking, we always try to conduct an audience analysis. And there are three things that we consider here. So first of all, we consider the demographics. So we might ask ourselves simple questions such as, who is in our audience? Are these a majority of men? Are these women? How old are our audience members as well? Things like that. So this allows us then to better prepare ourselves and better tailor the message towards them. Because if you have a presentation on a certain topic and you're delivering it to a group of 5-year-olds, and you have that same topic and you're delivering it to a group of maybe 50-year-olds, right, that have certain experience in your topic, then obviously the material that you will bring in and the language that you will use will definitely differ. So that allows us to prepare. Psychographic analysis, that's also something that we conduct. This is, thinking about what kind of values perhaps our audience members have. Do we share anything? Do we have any values in common? So perhaps we can use that as well. So that's another thing that we take into consideration. And also, last but not least, the situational analysis. So where am I delivering my presentation? Now, if you think about it today, this is really important because through the last 2 years, a lot of things had shifted online, right? So people are now working online. We have a lot of remote work, virtual work, and even today we're meeting virtually as well. And when preparing a presentation, I thought about the situation. I thought about how and where I'm going to be delivering it. And I had to, consider that I would be showing my slides on the computer, that I needed to be in a quiet space, that I would need to have a really good internet connection, so there are no tech issues, and also ask myself the question, what if something happens? What if there's a breakdown? What if the internet goes down? How am I going to back this up? Will I have contact with my audience afterwards? Will this be recorded? Will I be able to send the presentation around so that I don't disappoint my audience members? So these are some of the things that we really have to think about as we are preparing ourselves for a presentation. And also asking the question of what. So what am I going to talk about? What exactly am I bringing in, right? And here, when you think of the structure of a presentation, it's very simple. It's just like, I'm sure many of you know essays from school, right? So you have your traditional introduction, the body, and the conclusion. And in each one of these elements, there are specific things that we pay attention to. In the introduction, the most important thing is to try to gain your audience's attention. And if you guys have ever come across TED Talks, I don't know if anyone knows about TED Talks. This used to be, it started out many years ago as a big conference, a technology education related conference, and it's spread around the world. And now we have these TEDx's, which are small conferences globally that happen globally. Literally every month, and you can watch them because they're brought online, so you can watch these TED Talks online. They're super interesting, some of them, so I really do recommend them. And if you watch, you'll see that every speaker has a specific way to gain attention. So some of them might start with a joke, somebody might ask a question, someone may even sing a song, right? So how do you get your audience at the beginning, right at the beginning? How do you capture their attention? How do you get them to focus on your presentation? How do you get their interest, right? So you kind of have to reel them in somehow. Within the body of any presentation, they say that, the communication specialists, they recommend that we have no more than 3 main points that we go through. So the magic number in public speaking is 3. And the reason for that is that we remember, and our audience members will remember information in chunks. So if you think about memorizing a phone number, I don't think anybody does that anymore. But back in the day, I used to do that, right? So if you had to do that and you had a long string of numbers, you usually try to memorize it in chunks. So we say 354, 768, 251, right? Because that's the way our brain is constructed, and that's the way that we best retain information. So if we have 3 nicely structured, for example, main points, it's easy for the audience members to follow. And you tell them exactly what you're going to speak about, 3 points, or as I did, I showed you the questions that I'm going to answer. I had 4, which is still okay. And then you guys know you can follow, what's coming step after step, and that gives you a little bit of closure and allows you to have that structure, right? And then in the conclusion, just as with the introduction, we try to find something that is like a little bit of a wow factor that we could leave our audience members with. So this could be a quotation of some sort. We could ask a question. It might be a rhetorical question. And then we leave our audience members with that and they could reflect on it, right? So they say it's really important on how you finish as well, right? So your wow factor right there. And finally, asking the question, how? So what are some of the tips, that make great public speakers is my question here. And I can tell you that there are many, and we don't have enough time to go through all of them, but let's just take a small kind of sneak peek. So the first one that I think is really important, I'd like to mention is being confident. Now, what could give us confidence, right? Because I said earlier that a lot of people are fearful of speaking in public. So what can help us build confidence? And of course, this might be a cliche, but preparation, right? So one of the most important things is always when you're delivering a presentation, be well prepared. Research your topic inside out, know what you're talking about, show the audience members that you're interested, right? And then practice over and over until you feel that you've literally over practiced. And that's when you know that you're ready. So Steve Jobs, right, the founder of Apple, he once said that, rehearse twice as much as you need to. And he was well known as one of the top public speakers in the world. If you guys ever watch his product launches, of the various computers that came out and the other gadgets, iPhones, etc., you'll see that he's always very calm, super well prepared. He has a lot of visuals, a huge screen behind him. He always has a demonstration. And what was interesting about him was that at the end of his presentations, he always would say, and there's one more thing. And the audience members throughout the years, they learned that when he said that meant that there would be something super, super exciting at the very end of his presentation. So he always saved the best for last. And it was some kind of surprise that nobody was expecting, something that was a function of the iPhone or the computer, a feature that it was just complete novelty and super amazing. So he kind of used that as his tagline, and he used to do that in all of his presentations. If you guys look this up, if you Google it, you'll find many examples of this. And also, in terms of confidence, another thing is that it's psychologically proven that our bodies, the way that we conduct our bodies, can have an impact on our minds. So if we, through our posture, for example, if we have a posture that is one that is confident, if we smile, for example, so if you smile, they say that you can trick your brain into thinking that, making it think kind of that it's happier, right? If your body is in a confident position, then you can also kind of convince your brain that you are feeling more confident. And there's a TED Talk on this as well. And I'm just going to go back really quickly to my previous slide, or maybe, sorry, I'm just jumping around here a little bit. I had a picture of, never mind, but I had a picture of a lady and it said TED on it in one of my previous slides. And that's Amy Cuddy. She has a TED Talk where she tells her life story. She's a psychologist who studied at Harvard University. She teaches there now, and she studies body language. And she says, fake it till you make it. So she claims that if, for example, you're going into an interview and you have to present yourself well, but you're a little bit stressed, if you go and you look in front, you stand in front of a mirror and you kind of power pose. So you say, like, just like the guy that we see here in the slide, and you go like, yeah, I got this, no problem, I can do it, right? That way you can convince your brain that you are actually confident and that you can do a great job, right? So try it one day and see if it would work for you as well. Now, apart from that, in terms of tips, rhetoric. So great speakers, they use words in a very effective way. So first of all, always use simple words, words that are familiar, something that's concrete and specific. Don't be abstract, and don't try to be overly sophisticated. You know, there are people out there that think that they'll do a great job and they'll be more admired if they use very difficult words. Audience members, they want to listen to something simple, something pleasant, and they just want to understand the message that you're trying to convey. They don't want to have to make an effort, and they don't want to sit there with a dictionary and have to figure out what you're trying to tell them, right? Eliminating clutter also, so expressing your ideas briefly, not going too long and in circles. So be specific and concrete with what you say. And also, you know, public speaking specialists, they say that creating a mental image to move your audience members is something that is really recommended. So, you know, trying to describe using descriptive image building kind of words, but also having maybe some visuals for those people who react better to a photo, to an image, right? So that they can see it. So help them see what you are saying through the words that you use and how you describe what you're saying, but also accompanying that with an image. So that makes it much more pleasant for everyone in your audience. And what could help with that are, for example, metaphors, repetition, and I'm sure that these rhetorical devices you have come across in some of your classes, or if you haven't, I'm sure that you will. And through them, we can evoke emotions and we can kind of master the art of storytelling. Because, you know, when you tell stories, then your audience members, they really relate to that better. We love to listen to stories and to hear people tell us about their own experiences and about other people who, you know, had similar types of experiences that are related, let's say, to our presentation specifically. And last but not least here, you know, delivery. So there was an unknown author who once said that effective communication is 30% what you know, and 70% how you feel about what you know. So it's the delivery part. And I posted here a link. As we're recording, I think the recording will be available. And if not, then you could also Google it. It's a short TED Talk, 5 minutes. It's called How to Sound Smart in Your TED Talk. And this young gentleman, it's really funny. Like I said, it's really short, 5 minutes, super funny, humorous. He delivers a presentation saying that it's going to be about nothing. So he literally comes out and says, guys, hello, welcome. I'm gonna deliver a presentation about nothing. And he continues to really not have much content throughout those 5 minutes, but he does talk about stage presence. So he literally describes that he's pacing himself, that he's wearing glasses to look smart, that he's using gestures and doing all these things that are super important when you're delivering a presentation. It's a huge part of being successful when you're on stage. So some of those things, you know, in terms of powerful delivery would be having a good posture, right? Because if you're slouching, it may seem that you're not confident, that you're shy, and the audience members, they're going to pick up on your energy, right? This is really also crucial to consider. Maintaining eye contact with the people in your audience as well, so that they feel that you have that connection with them, that you're not staring down one person or not looking down at your shoes, right? Because again, that doesn't show confidence. Using your gestures, so not over like this, right? Because that's over gesticulation. We don't want that. That's too much. And that's very distracting. But we should not maybe keep our hands in our pockets. It's, first of all, it's not very polite, but also that limits the movements, the hand gestures, which we can use in order to stress certain points that we're making. So if you're describing something in your presentation and you're saying that something is very big or very small, or you know, you're referring to your audience that everybody all together, right? You can use your hand gestures to supplement that speech, and it makes it much more fun, and people feel more of an energy from you. Another thing is also pacing yourself. So if you speak too quickly, people won't be able to understand, of course. And then if you speak too slowly, also, they will probably get lost at some point. They'll start sleeping, I guess. So you have to find the right balance between those two. Projection, people have to be able to hear you, and articulation, right? So making sure that you pronounce your words well, that you don't eat up the endings, that they could hear, your audience members can hear the full word, the full sentence clearly, because otherwise they won't be able to understand. And then again, as I was saying before, you kind of lose your audience. And the personal appearance. The personal appearance has to be linked to the occasion. And so, of course, if you are delivering a presentation that is very official, then you should also be dressed accordingly. If you are at an event that is more casual, that is more, kind of free-flowing and fun, then perhaps the dress code might be a little bit less official, less formal, and you need to adapt to that as well, because otherwise you're going to feel uncomfortable and your audience members will probably feel uncomfortable as well, right? So this is what kind of the powerful speech delivery includes. So just to kind of top this off, I would say, John Powell, he was a writer, a speech writer, very well known for presidential candidates in the US as well. And he said that communication works for those who work at it. So we all have to make an effort. And if we practice enough, if we, any chance that you get to deliver a presentation, take that chance, practice as much as you can, and you'll be able to, I promise, you'll be able to perfect the skill of public speaking, and you will definitely be successful. Thank you very much. Do you guys have any questions for me? Anything to add? Maybe some experiences of your own with public speaking? Anybody have any experiences? Any fears?
Is everybody shy of speaking in public?
Don't be shy. I don't bite.
Exactly.
Be lovely to have a conversation.
Speaking of public speaking, by
Yeah.
your experience, Joan, do you think people are more shy to make any kind of questions using the new technology, for example, that they do not have sometimes to open the camera, so they are more allowed to just be quiet? Or do you think they are more shy in person? What do you think?
You know what? I don't know if it's about being more shy or less shy. I think it's just with technology. My personal observation is that it's so much easier to hide behind the camera. And so you kind of you don't have to. I mean, I even observe this sometimes with students, in the classroom, it's a different situation because I face the students, they face me. We see each other, and so I ask a question and I'll look them in the eye, and it's someone's always tempted to finally say something or answer the question, whereas it's so easy to hide when your camera's off and nobody can see you.
Exactly. It's really nice to have new technologies, and the new technologies is helping business around the world because we have this easy possibility to communicate, but at the same way, it's discussing about public speaking. Sometimes just using the technology, it's harder to bond. No, it's hard to make the connection with the audience. No, I think this is one of the most challenge aspects of speaking with new technologies.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, because especially if you know people, if your audience members have their cameras turned off, you know, as a public speaker, it's really nice if you can feed off of your audience. And when you see their nonverbal communication, you see, you know, you have eye contact, you see their faces, you see whether they're interested or not, or whether they're confused or not. You know, you can see that emotion, and you, as a public speaker, it's then easier for you to respond to that emotion. Whereas if you, with technology, if you can't see anyone, you're just seeing your reflection, then that's really difficult, because you don't know what your audience is feeling. So how do you react to that, you know?
Exactly.
It's tough, yeah. So always turn on your cameras.
No questions at all. If any of you have a question and would like to make it later on, you can forward to FG, or you can forward it to me. I can then discuss with Professor Joanne and we can give an answer. Or if you have a question regarding EU Business School as well, or any of our campus lifestyle and thing, please feel free to get in touch with us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. If you know, you can share my email or my LinkedIn profile. I'm very happy to, you know, afterwards also have a discussion or offer any tips, ideas, recommend any books on public speaking, TED Talks that are fun and interesting. So please feel free to contact me, and, you know, anytime. Really happy.
Thank you. I was just wondering, not really a question. My name is Susie. Whether speaking in public would be as scary as speaking online. Because speaking in public, you have techniques that will calm you down.
Mhm.
Online, if you have all these, you know, off, the cameras off, and I think it's scarier.
I think it really depends on, I think it really depends on the individual, you know. I did ask that question once also in the classroom, and the classroom was really divided. I would say that almost equally. So some say that they prefer speaking online, because of the fact that they actually, what I was mentioning earlier, that they can't see the reaction. So, you know, because when you're standing in front of a public and you maybe, I don't know, you see somebody who is rolling their eyes, or I don't know, yawning or something like that, then you might feel stressed in the moment, because in your brain, you know, your thoughts are going and you're like, uh-oh, I'm not being interesting, or somebody doesn't care. And it might not necessarily be towards you. It just might be that somebody so happens to be tired, or they got a text message that made them roll their eyes, you know, but you might pick up on that and you might take it personally. So I think it really depends.
Yeah, that could be a million reasons, but thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for the question.
So I think we have another, no, it's not a question, it's just a comment from Aline. I think some people is afraid of microphone hearing their own voice. Well, it's sometimes can be a little bit strange to hear your own voice. It's like making an audio at WhatsApp and then you hear it and it's, wow, this is my voice, no?
Yeah, a lot of people don't like hearing their voices, I think. But a good thing to do, especially if you know that you're going to be delivering speeches, presentations online, is to record yourself. Is literally to practice through recording yourself. And when you record, then you can, I mean, this is the beauty of technology. You record, you watch yourself back, and then you're your biggest, we are our biggest critics. So when we watch back, we can then say, oh, I should do less of this or more of this, or this is annoying, or I shouldn't, I don't know, I should change my posture, I should change, I should gesture less or more, or whatever else. So we can kind of then practice that and record again and again, and we can develop the presentation until it's almost perfect. And when we're kind of then ready to go and to present to our public.
no further questions. Marina?
So I don't think we have any more questions. Não, gente, vocês estão quietinhos hoje.
Everybody's
No?
quiet.
Yeah.
Are you tired?
I believe they are probably digesting all this information that was really enriching.
Great, thanks, Susie.
Yeah,
Or they're
the
just
kids
all
are-
great. They're all great public speakers. It's as simple as that.
Oh, I think
Fantastic.
maybe they're great listeners.
Absolutely, 100%. Super.
Well, if there's no questions left,
Mhm.
that's all for today. So thank you so much, Professor Joanne, for your
Thank you for having me.
presentation, for everything you've brought to us today. Thank you so much, Caio, for bringing
Thank you,
Professor
Marina.
Joanne.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, business. And I see you on the next mock class.
Super.
Okay,
Bye.
Thank
thank
you.
you very
Bye,
much.
guys. Bye, everyone.
Ciao,
Thanks for
ciao.
joining in. Ciao. Bye.
Bye-bye. Ciao. Thank you, Joanne. Have a nice evening.
You too. Bye. Ciao.
Thanks.